In the vibrant heart of Hong Kong, as spring breathes new life into the city, a tale of justice and judgment unfolds. Adrian Lam, once a magistrate dispensing the law, now a defense lawyer challenging it, takes on a case that cuts deep into the moral fabric of society. What secrets will they unearth in their relentless pursuit of redemption? And at what cost does justice come when the scales are tipped by the hands of deceit? Let's dive in. The movie begins in Hong Kong 2002. Adrian Lam is a fast-talking, middle-aged magistrate handling small cases in the law courts in Kowloon. Bored with his job, he deliberately arrives late in court, just for the hell of it. After receiving notice that he's to be transferred to become presiding magistrate at the Obscene Articles Tribunal, he leaves his government job in frustration and joins a private law firm, run by an old friend, as a defense lawyer. He soon gets his first case, and TK explains to him how it is a case of child neglect. He explains that Jolene Tsang is a single mother and a retired top model, as she quit her job 7 years ago after becoming a mother. Currently, her daughter Elsa is in a coma due to a head injury, and Tsang is being charged with hitting her. As they are discussing the case, a woman barrister named Evelyn Fong comes there and sets off on the wrong foot with Lam, who comments on her being weak when he sees her carrying a lot of boxes. Fong doesn't seem happy with him as she refuses to shake his hand, saying barristers are not supposed to shake hands, and leaves soon after that, saying she needs to take a call. Soon, TK leaves while leaving Lam to discuss the case with Fong, who will be handling the case with him. There, Lam also meets his old friend Prince, and they seem happy to get reacquainted. After that, the three of them go to meet with the culprit, and Tsang and Fong introduce them. She then asks Tsang to tell Lam everything about the case. Tsang starts explaining how the night of the crime, her daughter had a bit of a fever, and she went to bed earlier than usual. After she put Elsa to sleep, she went out to the garden and passed out for a while. She woke up after 2 hours and came back to the house, where Elsa was lying on the floor, unconscious, with a big wound on her head. Tsang continues how she went to the emergency room with Elsa, but she was arrested from there because of the child neglect. Lam asks her about her husband, and Tsang tells him that she never got married and got separated from her boyfriend before Elsa was born. On his further questions, she tells him that she was alone in the house at night. Fong overtakes the conversation as she tells how the reports came in the morning, and they state that Elsa has some bruises on her arms too, which means that she was pushed toward the table by an adult and it wasn't an accident. Lam doesn't seem much worried about the case, as he tells Tsang that even if she gets convicted, she will not go to jail for a long time. This scene changes to the trial in the court, where Lam is casually playing with his phone as the trial goes on in front of them. Fong is annoyed by his behavior and asks him to pay attention, but Lam casually replies that the lawyer is just reading the script. This makes Fong furious as she snatches the phone from his hand and gives it to Prince, forcing Lam to focus on the case. After the initial dialogue, a witness, a security guard named Chen Ball, is arrested in the court. He testified against Tsang, saying that he was patrolling that night when he saw that Elsa was struggling, but he couldn't hear her because she was impaired. Fong cross-questions her, asking why he didn't report to the police. Chen tries to say that he was drunk and thought it was just some domestic squabble. Fong argues that his duty is to report the crime immediately and mentions how he said something else in his testimony to the police, which makes his statements more suspicious. Later that night, Lam is sitting in a club with TK and some of his other friends when he receives a call from Prince. He is annoyed at the fact that they are calling him this late, but his interest quickly peaks when he finds out that Elsa may wake up soon. He rushes to the hospital, where Fong and Prince have already arrived. Fong notices that he is drunk and comments on how she wanted to discuss the case with him, but it will not be possible because of his condition. Their bickering stops once they find out that Elsa has woken up. Fong rushes to get the doctors while Lam and Prince go inside the room. They ask Elsa who beats her up, and though with difficulty, she tells them that her mother is not guilty. Before they can ask anything else, the doctor comes there, and soon after that, Elsa passes away. The next morning, he meets with Tsang and tells her about the events of last night. Lam shares his concerns about how the case will become a murder case now and may get a life sentence. He again questions Tsang, who this time admits that her boyfriend, Desmond Chum, was at her home that night. Later, TK, Prince, and Lam are sitting in a cinema as they discuss the current case. Desmond Chung is another suspect to them, but TK tells them how Chung has an alibi, proving that he was at his studio at the time of the crime. Lam comments that this case is very interesting, but it surprises him that it is not all over the media. T.K. explains that Chung belongs to a very powerful family, and if anyone wants to publish something about the case, they will need to get permission first. The next day, Lam goes to meet Chung in his office and questions him about the case. Chung tells him that when he went to Tsang's place that night, the door was open, and he saw Elsa lying on the floor, bleeding from her wound. Lam is happy to hear this, as this means that anyone could have entered the house when the door was unlocked, and there can be other suspects besides Tsang. He tells Chung to tell the same story in court and leaves after assuring him that he will take care of him in the hospital. On the day of trial, Fong is talking with Lam, discussing how Chung's testimony is very essential in court as it can change everything, and asking Lam why he didn't get the testimony in written form. Lam is unfazed, as he says that the privileged don't want things on record, and all the years of his working as a magistrate, he never got a written testimony, so it is not a big deal. Fong is worried that Chung might say something else in court, but Lam assures her that everything will be fine since he briefed Chung about what to say. Fong is still worried about Chung's wife, Victoria, who is the daughter of a powerful tycoon and is an enemy of Tsang. The day of final trials arrives, and Lam's carelessness evades when Chung changes his statement in court, saying that the door was locked when he reached there and he used his own keys to open the door. Lam tries to call him out on that, but he doesn't have any written testimony. The court announces Tsang guilty and gives her 17 years in jail. Lam is extremely guilty about the sudden change of events, and his guilt only increases when Fong strongly condemns his mistake. Due to being jailed, Tsang later tries to commit suicide, which only increases Lam's guilt, and he starts drinking. One night, he is super drunk and is trying to pick a fight with some goons in an alley. His old classmate Luck finds him there and encourages him to start a gang, asking him to remember his original purpose of studying law. Lam finally comes to his senses and decides to move his law firm to Munko, in an effort to redeem himself by helping those in need. 2 years later, Lam is working at helping those in need when one day he suddenly receives a call from Prince, who tells him that Chan has come back to the city due to some terminal illness and has committed suicide. He confesses to framing Tsang in his suicide note. This gives Lam new hope, and he decides to reopen the case. He meets with Fong again and tries to convince her to join him once again. She refuses strongly at first, still angry at Lam for messing up the case. Lam confesses how he is still extremely guilty about the case and doesn't want to waste it if God is giving him another chance. When she still refuses, TK talks to her and manages to convince her to give Lam another chance. She goes to Lam's place to tell him that she will help him and finds him getting beaten up by some gangsters. After the leave, giving him an ultimatum of 2 days, she takes Lam to the hospital, where they reunite with Prince, who tells Fong how Lam has helped his father in some cases, which led to him studying law since his father adored Lam a lot. Soon, the three of them start to work on the case again and meet with Tsang, who is hopeless and doesn't want to reopen the case. She doesn't want them to work on her case again, but Lam manages to convince her that he saw Elsa with his own eyes and will give his 100% this time. The High Court approves the retrial, but problems arise when the Department of Justice decides to upgrade Tsang's charge to a murder and assigns Senior Prosecutor Cam to the trial. Chen's note is deemed insufficient evidence, prompting Lam and Fong to revisit Tsang's residence and reconstruct the case. The two realize that Victoria had visited the residence before Cheng's arrival while Tsang was asleep in the garden. Lam decides to wiretap Victoria's residence and trick her into confessing to the crime. Lam then plays the recording in court to sway the jury, to Cam's objection. Meanwhile, the Chung's legal advisor and longtime friend, barrister James Tung, takes action against Lam, having him arrested for wiretapping. Lam still manages to arrive in court with the help of Prince, who convicts a friend in the police force to grant him bail. Lam forms a plea with Fong in the final trial to make Ting and the Chungs confess to the truth. Jam also agrees to the plan after revealing to Lam that he also knows the truth about the case. At the trial, both lawyers highlighted inconsistencies in Chung's testimony and suggested that, based on new evidence, it was Chung and Victoria who murdered Elsa. They explain how Victoria crushed Elsa's head against a table corner, resulting in her cerebral bleeding, and left Chung to feed her water, which led to her death, and then forced him to cover up the crime. Tsang starts crying after learning how her father murdered her daughter, and she is found guilty and released from jail. The Chungs and Tungs are then arrested by the ICAC, led by Lek and the police, for their crimes. Lam, Fong, Prince, and Tsang celebrate their victory, and Lam decides to partner with Fong and Prince to form a new law firm while continuing to help those in need. As our journey through the intricate corridors of Hong Kong's justice system comes to a close, I leave you with a question. In the pursuit of justice, how do we reconcile the weight of a guilty conscience with the quest for redemption? Comment below. That's the case closed on this movie recap. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe for more weekly Moonlight recaps. Thanks for watching.